even when the greatest power on earth, the United States, has, or many of its senior officials have declared that they would like to see you finished.
Muammar Gaddafi took power as the leader of Libya on September 1st, 1969, following a bloodless military takeover against King Idris. This was 22 years after the start of the Cold War. After the takeover, Libyan relations with the United States began to deteriorate. Thus, he aligned himself with the USSR and other Eastern Bloc countries. However, he opposed the spread of communism in the Arab world. Things began to escalate a few years later. First was the 1981 Gulf of Sidra incident. 2 Libyan jets fired on United States aircraft, and the planes returned fire. The Libyan planes were shot down immediately. Soon after the incident, the United States advised that its citizens stay away from Libya, and by 1982, the United States prohibited Libyan crude oil from entering the country. This brings us to 1986. By this time, the United States had taken a hard stance on Libya's alignment with the Soviets. There was a direct ban on trade, and all Libyan-related commercial contacts and travel activities were suspended. In 1986, a landmark event occurred that changed the United States' view on Libya forever. The La Belle discotheque in West Berlin was bombed by terrorists when a bomb under the disc jockey's booth exploded. Immediately, a Turkish civilian was killed, and Kenneth T. Ford and James E. Goins were both killed as well. They were both United States sergeants. A total of 230 people were injured in the blast. Some were permanently disabled. 79 injured people were American servicemen. Libya was blamed for the attack after a message was sent from Libya to the Libyan embassy in Berlin, congratulating them on a job well done. This implicated Libya directly in the La Belle discotheque bombing. President Ronald Reagan immediately retaliated with the 1986 Operation El Dorado Canyon.
My fellow Americans, at 7 o'clock this evening, Eastern Time, air and naval forces of the United States launched a series of strikes against the headquarters, terrorist facilities, and military assets that support Muammar Qaddafi's subversive activities. The attacks were concentrated and carefully targeted to minimize casualties among the Libyan people, with whom we have no quarrel. From initial reports, our forces have succeeded in their mission. Several weeks ago in New Orleans, I warned Colonel Gaddafi we would hold his regime accountable for any new terrorist attacks launched against American citizens. More recently, I made it clear we would respond as soon as we determined conclusively who was responsible for such attacks. On April 5th, in West Berlin, a terrorist bomb exploded in a nightclub frequented by American servicemen. Sergeant Kenneth Ford and a young Turkish woman were killed, and 230 others were wounded, among them some 50 American military personnel. This monstrous brutality is but the latest act in Colonel Gaddafi's reign of terror. The evidence is now conclusive that the terrorist bombing of La Belle discotheque was planned and executed under the direct orders of the Libyan regime. On March 25th, more than a week before the attack, orders were sent from Tripoli to the Libyan People's Bureau in East Berlin to conduct a terrorist attack against Americans to cause maximum and indiscriminate casualties. Libya's agents then planted the bomb. On April 4th, the People's Bureau alerted Tripoli that the attack would be carried out the following morning. The next day, they reported back to Tripoli on the great success of their mission. Our evidence is direct, it is precise, it is irrefutable.
This is an excerpt from President Ronald Reagan's speech to the nation on April 14, 1986. The purpose of this speech is to inform the American public about the American bombing of Libya and to provide an explanation for the attack. This is valuable because it is coming from the President of the United States, who is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. We are also able to see direct insight into why the bombing occurred. There are some limitations to this speech, however. We are able to see the United States' view on the topic, but we cannot see the point of Soviet-allied Libya. Also, we're not able to see Reagan's personal point of view, but rather a public address to the whole country. The Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union was a proxy war, meaning that the US and the USSR never directly fought each other. Instead, third parties allied with each cause and fought each other. This is important because Libya was allied with the USSR and attacked the US with the disco bombing in the Gulf of Sidra, which propelled the US to attack Soviet allies. The United States was fighting the Soviet Union indirectly.
Despite our repeated warnings, Gaddafi continued his reckless policy of intimidation, his relentless pursuit of terror. He counted on America to be passive. He counted wrong. I warned that there should be no place on earth where terrorists can rest and train and practice their deadly skills. I meant it. I said that we would act with others if possible and alone if necessary to ensure that terrorists have no sanctuary anywhere. Tonight, we have. Thank you. God bless you.